You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast for our prediction rundown. Now, if you were with us right at the beginning of the IPL, you'll remember that our final show before the tournament started, I think on tournament's eve, was a draft-based prediction. So the three of us, myself, Ross, and Dan, with Max involved too, did a snake draft for a number of categories and picked like unique predictions, basically. We are now going to award points and award the IPL prediction trophy to one of us. And I can tell you now it wasn't Max. So it's not. We're not doing it behind his back. He did not win. He did not win this tournament. And the way it's going to work, I'll let you know what the category was. We'll talk about who picked who. And then we will award points. I think we'll start with the kind of bad prizes, if you like. We'll start with flop and worst place. So, fellas, right back at the beginning of the tournament, we made 4 predictions about who would be the flop of the tournament. Max rowe-brown, Cam Green. Cameron Green, I think that's a bit of a flop of a pick. Ross, Rohit Sharma. Dan, Ben Stokes, and I went with Ben Maxwell, which again, bit of a flop of a flop on those occasions. So what we're going to do, it'll be 3 points for the winner, 2 points for second place, 1 point for third place, 0 for last. And if you got it right as well as being closest, you'll get a bonus 2 points, so get 5 points. Now, I think there is no award for flop of the tournament, so we're going to have to just quickly decide who that was ourselves.
Well, that is one answer, and it's Deepak Hooda.
I feel like it probably is Deepak Hooda.
The guy averaged less than 10.
I think
he played nearly every game, averaged less than 10, a strike rate of less than 105. Like the guy is a loser. And
then he ran out 3 people in the eliminator. So I think it is hard to look past Deepak Hooda. Dan, is there anyone else you'd throw into the mix for flop of the season? I don't know if we need to debate that.
There's a couple. From an on-pitch perspective, I think that you're struggling to look past KL Rahul, who consistently doubles down on, triples down, or quadruples down on this strike rates don't matter mentality, and then proceeded to strike at 113 before he got injured. But I can't look past spending, I can't remember how much it was, I forget now, 14 crore, whatever it was, on a guy who played as an all-rounder who played as a specialist batsman, bowled a tiny bit in the second game, and then never played again.
See, this is a good pitch to try and get yourself some points here, Dan.
But I also think it was extremely merited as well.
In terms
of our ROI, that's not great.
Ross and I are going to vote you down on this one, I'm afraid, and say that it was Deepak Hooda. But that does leave the question of who was closest to Deepak Hooda. And I think in this case, Max and I both have to take a 0 here.
Maxwell struck at 183. I think that's a strike rate, and actually he was insane.
As Cameron Green scored 400 runs at 160 himself, including 100 in the must-win match for Mumbai to get into the playoffs. So pretty decent from Cameron Green there. Between Rohit and Stokes, though, I actually would probably have Rohit ahead. I feel like that.
What's his stats? Do we have his stats up for Rohit's stats?
I'll Google them now. But here's my argument. I think Rohit Sharma, by dint of the fact that he actually played, is more negative than Ben Stokes. Ben Stokes went on the bench and they picked somebody else, and Ben Stokes delivered 0 positive value and 0 negative value from that point on in the tournament. Rohit Sharma played game after game after game. Finished the season, actually, you know what? Maybe he got an innings near the end. Average of 20, strike rate of 132. Now, I think that is pretty pants. But I don't know.
Ben Stokes got 16.
But Ben Stokes didn't play 14 matches or 16 matches.
Yeah, but it cost them about a fifth of their budget.
So did Rohit Sharma. So did Rohit Sharma.
Yeah, but at least Rohit Sharma walked on the pitch.
Right. Well, look, we'll give it to Ben Stokes as the biggest flop because at least Rohit Sharma did some captaincy. Like his team made it to the playoffs, and let's say he added some value there. So Ross, you'll get 2 points. Dan,
he's fought well for his 3 points.
He's fought really hard for his 3 points there. Like I wasn't expecting that, to be honest. Next we had worst place. Now this is less subjective, so I think we can rattle through this one pretty quickly. Max,
these are also very harsh as you people take obviously the ones that were going to finish last, and then you end up with.
We didn't get the team that finished last. Max said Punjab Kings, Ross said Gujarat Titans, Dan said Mumbai Indians, and Jack said Kolkata Knight Riders. So in terms of points there, nobody actually got the team that would finish last in the IPL. That, of course, was Sunrisers Hyderabad.
It was so bad.
At the time, it would have been a really rogue pick. If someone had said Sunrisers, that would have been a really, really brave call. Now it seems so obvious, but at the time, everyone was pretty hot on them. The points are rewarded as follows. Max gets 3 points. Punjab finished lowest of the 4 teams. I get 2 points with KKR. Dan, you get a solitary point with Mumbai. And Ross, who predicted Gujarat would finish last, gets 0 points because Gujarat finished top of the table.
No, I remember the preview show and be like, just how the black magic has to end, but it can't.
Yeah. Next, we will do purple cap for most wickets. Shall I run through who picked who? Max went first. He went with Trent Bolt. Ross, you went second and said Jadeja. We were all laughing at you at the time, but you picked up some points, let me tell you. Third, Dan said Umran Malik.
Did he play?
He got Sunrisers on that one. That was a big time Sunrisering. And then I went pretty safe and I said Chahal. The points are awarded as follows. I pick up 3. Chahal was closest to the top. A fair way off winning. I think Shami took it, didn't he? And then Rashid, and then I think there's another couple of bowlers.
Mohit was up there, wasn't he?
Mohit was up there. I think Deshpande was above him, and then maybe Chahal was 5th. But it was like, I'm happy with my 3 points.
Chawla was 5th.
Oh yeah, of course, Chawla. If someone had gone with Chawla, that would have been insane. Ross, you pick up 2 points for Jadeja. It turned out to be a pretty good call. Max picks up 1 with Bolt, and Dan, I'm afraid you take the duck on that.
What you've literally gone from who finished bottom and then who had a 90-mile-an-hour bowler and didn't play him. So, like, say no more. As any Sunrisers fans are listening, like, there's only Brian Lara to blame on that one, guys.
The scores as they currently stand, and I'm going to read it out now because I know what happens in the next round. I'm winning. I've got 5 points. Max and Ross are on 4 each, and Dan, actually, you're on 4 as well. We'll do orange cap next. This was for most runs. Max, well, actually, we'll do it in. I think I got to draft first here. I went with King Legend. And I said he would strike at 137. He got injured and struck at 113. So a bad year for King Legend. Dan, you went next. You went for Shubman Gill. So that's a 5-pointer. That's the first correct call from one of our predictions.
Well done.
Ross, you went with Gaikwad. Not a bad call yourself there. Like, definitely in the conversation till quite late in the tournament. And Max went for Mayank Agarwal, which turned out to be a bit of a failure. Points awarded: 5 to Dan, 2 to Ross, and KL Rahul edges out Agarwal by 4 runs to get me the last available point. Next category: most valuable player. Now, there's a question here around whether we want to do our own version of this or whether we want to use the official one. I'll tell you who we picked.
This was a panic category, wasn't it? This was added.
We added this at the last minute. So Max went with Sam Curran because he supports Surrey. That's a bit of a failure there from Max. Ross went for Mayank Agarwal.
Complete panic at the time. Remember, if you go back and watch that episode, I literally was like, Mayank Agarwal.
Dropped the ball on that one. Dan, you went with Joss Butler, who actually, flattered for it, or flickered for a little bit, and then ended up with 5 ducks. Yeah, five quackers. And I went for Cameron Green as a joke. Now,
you got it.
I'm saying here, picked up my 3 points on that one, surely. Like that's that of the players on that list. That's closest, but it does seem. I mean, Shubman Gill wins MVP. Would anyone have an argument against that? Surya Kumar Yadav, maybe.
I think. How is it typically done? Is there a weighting system that they use around runs and contribution with the ball?
I think it's just fantasy league points.
Oh, is it fine?
Yeah,
I do think Jadeja was actually really, really useful for CSK in the tournament, but I don't think he comes close to kind of what Gill did with the bat. And everyone knows that being a batsman's way harder than being a bowler. So they got to hit those centuries, right?
Yeah. I think there's an argument that you could say Surya Kumar Yadav was MVP based on how many runs he scored above average. But the sheer weight of runs and the fact that he has
3 centuries in this IPL.
3 tons, and that one of those tons was in a knockout match, and that he actually did pretty well in the final as well. It worked, in terms of statistical excellence, it's a fantastic year. And then in terms of big moments, it's also a pretty fantastic year. So it's hard to look past Gill, I think.
And so the second most runs of all time in a tournament as well.
Yeah. It's
which I must admit, you look at Kohli's 976 or whatever it was, and I don't think it was quite that much. Insane year. Insane in 2016.
So I'm giving myself 3 points for Cameron Green. Sam Curran, Mayank Agarwal, and Joss Butler. What order do they go in for the remaining points, or do you all just get a wash? I mean, I'm easy.
Joss Butler still hits some runs.
Okay.
Runs. I think that for me, if I was choosing this, if I was a judge, and it goes completely irrelevant to my own picks, I would go Joss Butler with 2 points.
Okay.
Sam Curran with 1 point because at least he played every game. Man, Kagawa 0 points.
I would agree.
Oh, very magnanimous, Ross, because that could have severe repercussions.
That's right. I was the last minute surprise, and I didn't react well enough, and I should be punished for that. I would have only said Ravi Jadeja anyway. I must admit. So,
scores as they currently stand. Ross, you might have to write this down.
Okay.
Max has 5 points. Jack has 9 points. Is that right? 3 plus 3 plus 1 plus 2. Yep. Ross, you have 2, 4, 6 points. Dan has a total of 11 points.
The budding analyst.
I was about to say that. The budding analyst.
Right, we've got 2 categories left. Playoffs and the winner. We're going to score these slightly differently. You get a point per team you called that would make the playoffs. And the winner gets 5 points. Everyone else gets 0. No points to second place in this tournament. Well, there are. We've been giving out lots of points to second place, but no points to second place in that particular category. So the playoff calls. Max went for Chennai Super Kings, Rajasthan Royals, Lucknow Super Giants, and RCB. Ross, you went for Chennai Super Kings, Sunrisers Hyderabad, Rajasthan Royals.
Why did I do that? Why did I go so? I hate Sunrisers. That's a group think. That's a group think failure on my behalf.
And RCB. Dan, you went for Lucknow Super Giants, Rajasthan Royals, Sunrisers Hyderabad, and RCB. Jack went for Sunrisers Hyderabad, Delhi Capitals, Rogue, Rajasthan Royals, and Lucknow Super Giants. So I think
2-1-1-1.
2-1-1-1. Yeah. Max has won that one.
So I picked up 2. So I think it was 2-2-1-1.
Yeah. Who did you say?
I said Sunrisers Hyderabad, Delhi Capitals, Rajasthan Royals, and Lucknow Super Giants.
Yes,
and only one of those teams made the playoffs. So nice try. And that finally leaves us with the winner. Now, obviously, as this was a snake draft, you could only pick once. So if that team was off the board, you couldn't get them. The people selected for winner, Max went first. He went with Sunrisers Hyderabad. Ross, you went second, straight in there with Chennai Super Kings. Third, Rajasthan Royals with Dan. And then I said Delhi Capitals again.
Do you get minus points for picking Delhi Capitals and Sunrisers Hyderabad?
Pretty rogue that time. So Ross, you pick up a fiver there.
Mm-hmm.
So if my calculations aren't wrong, where were we before the last two rounds, Ross? Could you just read them out again?
5 for Max, 9 for Jack, 11 for Dan, and 6 for myself.
So
So
I
7, 12, 10, and 7. What we ended up with. Yeah, plus 5 onto me. I end up with 12. I draw with Mr. Weston.
yes, that's right. It's two people on 12. I think I finished second on 11. Did I finish on 11 or 10?
But yeah, finished on 10. Max finishes dead last with 7.
Yeah. So how do you two want to decide who wins? Ross, you said you wanted to make an argument about how the game is becoming a batting game. And I'm going to hear this argument, and then I want to hear Dan's response to it. And whoever makes the most compelling points about the future of T20 cricket, this is a really contrived way of sorting this out. I'm going to say is making the best predictions. So Ross, after you.
I'm just gonna relinquish. I think Dan deserves that to call Shubman Gill as the leading run scorer. If you look at what he did in the IPL previously, he didn't set the world alight at all. But there was that spark that clearly ignited in this one, and being able to look at that early on and notice that, I think is you got to take your hat off to that. And especially when there's so many different people in the running. I know from a wicket perspective, blah blah blah, but if you look at the talent that was on show this IPL from a batting perspective, yeah, that was a fantastic call down. So I'm happy to finish second.
Started decent of you, Ross, but I think it would be quite fun to have the debate anyway.
All right, fine.
Well,
So
Ross, you've got about 3 minutes. Yeah, go on.
Okay, so I think from what we've seen in this tournament, there is plenty to be said for bowlers having an impact. But with the introduction of the impact sub, I think it starts to skew in favour of the batting teams. Jack, I know we had a bit of a nice little debate when Mumbai had. You said they kind of deliberately put their side together, and they were just going, do you know what? We're just going to fill this full of the top 7, top 8 batsmen. And Mumbai completely and utterly carried their team. Piyush Chawla might have had a great year, but that is by the by. Taking a team with like Berendorf and Jordan all the way to where they did was seemed impossible right before the IPL actually was established, was started this year. If you look at what CSK have done, you look at and winning this tournament, they have managed to come up trumps when they actually needed to. And you can't tell me that Deshpande should be an IPL champion, having played nearly every single game, right? And then you've got the other side, which look at the teams that was more focused on the bowling unit, like Gujarat Titans, to a certain extent, of how they could have looked to win games. They obviously didn't win. Rajasthan Royals, kind of in the same kind of bucket, kind of where they've kind of picked 5 batsmen rather than 6 bowlers. It didn't work out, especially with Jason Holder having a terrible year. So all in all, I think there's a half-assed debate goes on this front. I think there's some more checks in the column for the game readdressing the balance because of the impact sub towards the batting unit rather than having a great bowling team.
And it's an interesting question for you. If you were recruiting right now and you had to go all in on batters or all in on bowlers, like the owner says, we're doing one of these things. We're not building a balanced squad. We're just going to buy loads of one of these things. What, you're going to first 5 picks of your draft are all going to be batters, say, or all bowlers. Which one do you go for?
In the IPL now, I'm going for batters because you've got the impact sub rule. But the problem is that they didn't actually have clarity of the impact sub rule before the auction took place. So it's basically impossible to construct a squad optimally, knowing obviously you don't have a time machine to work out whether there was going to be any new rules or not. And so, yes, I would say now, if knowing about the impact sub, I would pick all batters or batting strong, but for all I know, I could pick a really batting strong team, and now we're not having an impact sub rule anymore, and you're screwed. I think this is quite league specific as well. Like in a big bash, for example, I'd probably rather go with a bowling strong team, whereas with the impact sub rule in the IPL, I'm much more minded to go with the batting strong team. So a kind of horses for courses, and I think ultimately this kind of shows, for me, some kind of fault in the planning of leagues, and you can throw and it's not the only league that this happened in either. you can throw a random rule in like a month before the tournament starts, after you've done all of your recruitment, and you've got to live with it, you know. And I think when you recruit, you've got to have all the information to hand before you make those decisions, because ultimately you're not recruiting optimally otherwise, you know.
Right, we're going to wrap up there. We've done our 20 minutes on predictions. That was quite a lot of fun. We should do that again for future tournaments and shows.
Well done, Dan.
We'll be back. Yeah, congratulations, Dan. You're the real winner of the IPL. We'll be back.
I'll have to share the trophy with Ross.
We'll be back in a second.